Life Stories brings you real tales of resilience, betrayal, and triumph. Today's story is about Olivia, a woman who built her dream restaurant from the ground up only to have her manipulative mother-in-law, Evelyn, claim it as her own. What started as harmless family privileges turned into fraud, deception, and ultimate betrayal. But Olivia wasn't about to let herself be a victim. This is a story of strength, justice, and the power of reclaiming what's rightfully yours. Subscribe to Life Stories to begin today's journey, because the truth always finds its way to the surface. The sound of crystal glasses clinking and artificial laughter floated up from the private dining room of my restaurant. I stood at the top of the stairs, frozen in place, my fingers tightening around the stack of invoices in my hands. The familiar voice of my mother-in-law, Evelyn, sliced through the air like a sharp knife. "Of course. I never pay here," she said, her tone filled with amusement and arrogance. "This is my daughter-in-law's place, and family privileges mean everything is free for me. Honestly, I practically own half of it, considering how much we helped them get started." I felt my stomach turn as I listened. My knuckles turned white from gripping the invoices too tightly. Lies. Every word she spoke was another poison dart aimed straight at my reputation, each one hitting its mark with surgical precision. My name is Olivia, and this restaurant, every brick, every pan, every recipe was built by me. 17 years of hard work, long days, and countless burned fingers had gone into making this place a success. Not a single cent of the so-called Thompson family fortune had been invested in it. Evelyn had never lifted a finger to help. But to her circle of high society friends, she spun a different story. One of the women at her table giggled, swirling a glass of my finest wine. "Evelyn, you must tell us how you convinced her to use that amazing truffle supplier." "Oh, I just insisted," Evelyn replied, her voice dripping with condescension. The poor thing needed so much guidance in the beginning. Honestly, she still does. A fresh wave of laughter echoed through the room. I felt my jaw tighten as their conversation continued, each word chipping away at my patience. The invoices crumpled in my fists as another champagne bottle popped open, one of my most expensive vintages. No doubt. Then my phone buzzed. A message from Jake. "Mom says she's entertaining some friends at the restaurant. Hope that's okay. Hope that's okay." As if I were a child needing permission to set rules in my own home. As if my business, my life's work, was some family clubhouse where his mother could host her little gatherings whenever she pleased. It wasn't okay. None of this was okay. I inhaled deeply, my heels clicking sharply against the wooden stairs as I made my way down, each step deliberate. The laughter grew louder as I neared the dining room. I could already picture the scene, Evelyn in her element, commanding attention like a queen at her court, pouring my wine, serving my food, acting as though every dish was a party favor for her to distribute as she pleased. My hand paused on the door handle. Through the frosted glass, I could see their silhouettes, 7 or 8 women, gesturing with delicate hands that held my wine glasses, every single one of them hanging on to Evelyn's every word. For 4 years, I had swallowed my pride, played the role of the good daughter-in-law, and allowed her to parade through my restaurant as if she owned it. But this time was different. This time, I had reached my limit. Her voice carried through the door, louder now, filled with that signature arrogance. "It's a good thing I'm here to maintain standards." Left to her own devices, I had heard enough. Pushing the door open, I stepped inside, and the room fell into silence. Every head turned toward me. Evelyn's smile remained frozen in place, but her eyes sharpened. "Olivia, darling," she cooed, her voice thick with false sweetness. "I was just telling everyone about our little restaurant." Our little restaurant. Something inside me snapped, not with anger, not with rage, but with a quiet, final certainty, like a string pulled too tight, breaking with a soft but irreversible snap. "Actually, Evelyn," I said, keeping my voice steady despite the fire burning in my chest. I think it's time we talk about exactly whose restaurant this is. The weight of 17 years pressed against my ribcage. But I stood taller. I had spent too long letting Evelyn rewrite my story. Tonight, I was reclaiming it. A charged silence hung in the air, thick and heavy. The flickering candlelight cast elongated shadows across the linen-draped table. The untouched plates of carefully curated dishes now an afterthought to the growing tension. Evelyn tilted her head, her expression unreadable for a moment before she let out a light laugh. The kind that carried the forced charm of someone used to manipulating a room. "Oh, Olivia," she sighed, shaking her head slightly as if I had made an adorable mistake. "You always get so emotional about these things." My fingers twitched at my sides. But I refused to take the bait. I wasn't here to argue. I was here to set things right. "You've been hosting parties here for years, Evelyn. Running up thousands in food and wine. Never paying a cent, and now you're claiming some kind of ownership." My voice remained calm, but the ice beneath it was unmistakable. Evelyn's friends exchanged nervous glances, sensing that whatever this was, it wasn't part of the usual performance. Evelyn set down her glass with deliberate grace, then folded her hands neatly in front of her. "Olivia, dear, you're overreacting. Family shares what it has. I bring people here, important people, and in return, they talk about your little place." Little place. I clenched my jaw. "My restaurant is not some charity project for you to manage, Evelyn. And bringing in a table of women who leave without tipping and drain my best wines isn't help. It's theft." Evelyn's smile finally faltered. Her fingers tightened around the stem of her glass. "Now that's an ugly word, isn't it? The truth often is." She inhaled sharply, eyes darting toward her guests as if calculating the damage to her reputation. "I think we should move past this unpleasantness. Come, let's have a toast." "No," I interrupted, stepping forward. "From now on, if you want to eat here, you pay, just like everyone else." The words felt final, like a stone hitting the bottom of a well. Evelyn's eyes widened for the briefest moment before her mask returned. She laughed. But this time, the warmth had vanished. "Oh, Olivia, you really are naive. Do you think this place would have ever gotten off the ground without the Thompson name attached to it?" I felt my stomach twist. I had built this restaurant from nothing, 17 years of sweat, sacrifice, and relentless work. The idea that Evelyn, who had contributed nothing but condescension, had the audacity to suggest that her name had anything to do with my success made my skin prickle with rage. "You didn't build this place, Evelyn," I said, my voice steady but cold. "I did. And I'm done letting you rewrite that story." A beat of silence. Then my phone buzzed. "Jake. Mom says she thinks you're being unfair. Can we talk?" Unfair. Unfair that I wanted to be paid for my own work. Unfair that I wouldn't let his mother trample over everything I had built. I looked up. And Evelyn was watching me, her lips curving into something that almost resembled pity. "You should go home, dear," she murmured, reaching for her wine again. "Take a breath before you do something you'll regret." I turned on my heel and walked out of the dining room. I wasn't the one who would have regrets. When I got home, I slammed the bedroom door so hard that the wedding photo on the wall fell, the frame cracking right down the middle, splitting between Jake and me. Somehow, it felt fitting. A muffled voice came from the hallway. "You're being completely unreasonable." I turned as Jake pushed the door open, rubbing his face, looking exhausted and exasperated. "Mom was just trying to be social. She brings valuable connections to the restaurant." I let out a short, bitter laugh. "Valuable connections? She just cost me $4,000 in wine and food tonight alone. And that's not even counting the damage she's doing to my reputation." Jake hesitated. "She's trying to help, Olivia, by telling everyone she owns my restaurant, that I need her guidance." That's not what she meant. Then tell me what she did mean. Jake. I challenged. He sighed, running a hand through his hair, a familiar gesture. One that used to soften me. Tonight. It only made my stomach tighten. You're taking this too personally, he muttered. Mom's just proud of what we've built. We. The word landed like a slap. I stared at him. Something cold settling inside me. What exactly have you built? Jake. Because I'm the one who worked double shifts for 17 years to save up. I'm the one who created every recipe, hired every staff member, solved every crisis while you were sitting at your cushy corporate job. His face darkened. That's a low blow. Olivia. You know I'm trying to find a job. Are you? My voice was sharp now. Because your mother told her friends you're on a sabbatical to explore new opportunities. Is that what we're calling it now? His jaw tightened. Stop attacking my mother. He slammed his fist against the wall. And for a brief moment, we were both stunned by the dent it left. I grabbed my laptop off the bed. You know what? I'm going to the restaurant. I need to fix the mess your mother made today. Olivia. Wait. And starting tomorrow. I said, pausing at the doorway, my voice cold and final. Your mother pays full price like everyone else. If she doesn't like it, she can take her little social gatherings somewhere else. You can't do that to her. I turned, meeting his eyes. Watch me. For a moment. Something flickered in his gaze, shock. Maybe even fear. If you do this, he said quietly, you're choosing business over family. I exhaled slowly, my grip tightening around my laptop. No. Jake. I said. I'm choosing self-respect over manipulation. Maybe you should try it sometime. Without waiting for his response, I walked out, my heels clicking against the hardwood floor like a countdown. In the car, I pulled up the restaurant's security camera feed on my phone. Evelyn's society friends were already posting about their free lunch on social media, tagging the restaurant like it was some kind of public spectacle. Each notification felt like another nail in the coffin of my marriage. My phone buzzed again. A text from my friend, Danielle. Wine emergency at my place. Come now. For once. Running away felt like the only sane option. Danielle's apartment was a welcome escape from the suffocating weight of the evening. The dim glow of her kitchen lights cast long shadows over the marble countertops, and the scent of red wine filled the air. I curled my hands around the glass she had pushed toward me, letting the warmth seep into my fingers. You look like hell, Danielle muttered, scanning my face. Tell me you didn't let Evelyn get to you again. I exhaled a bitter laugh. I finally told her she has to start paying for her meals. Danielle's eyebrows shot up. Well, it's about time. Let me guess, Jake didn't take it well? I stared down into my glass, watching the deep red swirl with the movement of my wrist. He thinks I'm choosing business over family. Danielle scoffed. Because to them, family means Evelyn gets whatever she wants. She leaned forward, lowering her voice. Olivia. You know this isn't just about her mooching off your restaurant. There's something deeper going on. You need to look at your finances, really look at them. I frowned. What are you talking about? She slid her laptop across the counter, the screen already open to a banking portal. I've been going through Timothy's account statements. I stilled. Timothy, Evelyn's husband. Jake's father. He had always been kind to me. A quiet but steady presence in the background of the family's chaos. Danielle's voice was low, almost hesitant. I started looking when Timothy mentioned that their accounts weren't adding up. And Olivia, the money isn't just missing. She clicked a few times, highlighting a set of transactions. It's been going straight into Evelyn's personal account. I leaned in, my breath catching in my throat. The numbers were staggering. $250,000. In just 4 months. My stomach twisted. That can't be right. Look at the dates. Danielle murmured. Most of the biggest transfers happened right after Jake lost his job. I felt something cold seep into my veins. She's been funding their lifestyle with Timothy's money? Danielle's lips pressed into a thin line. It's worse than that. She's been laundering it through your restaurant. I jerked my head up. What? She pulled up another file, a spreadsheet of transactions that matched purchases at my restaurant. High-end wine orders. Private dining events. Cash payments. Olivia. She's been selling something through your restaurant and disguising it as expensive meals. I sat back. Heart pounding. I thought of the extravagant jewelry Evelyn always wore. The way she loved to flash it in front of her society friends. Jewelry. I whispered. Danielle nodded grimly. Counterfeit. She's been selling fake pieces to her friends, passing them off as real, and using your restaurant as a cover for the payments. The weight of it crashed down on me. Evelyn wasn't just an overbearing mother-in-law who enjoyed free meals, she was a criminal. And Jake. I swallowed hard. How much did Jake know? My phone buzzed on the counter. Jake. Where are you? Mom's lawyer wants to talk about the restaurant's future. We need to act fast. I stared at the words, my fingers tightening around my phone. She's making her move. Danielle leaned back, watching me carefully. What are you going to do? I let out a slow breath, steadying myself. I need to talk to Timothy. The next morning, I met Timothy at a quiet cafe away from prying eyes. He looked exhausted, his usual sharp suit slightly wrinkled. His face lined with worry. Olivia, he said. His voice heavy. I need to show you something. He slid a document across the table. I picked it up, my breath catching in my throat. It was a loan application. My restaurant's name was at the top. Madison's, Evelyn's signature was below it. And then, next to it, mine. Except I had never seen this document before. She's trying to take out a second mortgage on your restaurant. Timothy said quietly, using your name as collateral. The room felt like it was tilting. That's not possible. I whispered. I never signed anything. Timothy sighed, rubbing his temples. Evelyn's always been good with signatures. Ask Jake about his college acceptance letter sometime. I swallowed hard. Jake knew about this. Timothy hesitated. I don't know how much he knew. But Olivia, he's been handling the books during those private events. My stomach churned. Jake had been covering for her. He had been part of it. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed again. Another text. This time from an unknown number. Miss Carter. This is Eric Monroe. We should discuss your mother-in-law's interpretation of my review. Perhaps over dinner. I looked up at Timothy, my mind racing. She's not just trying to control my restaurant. I murmured. She's trying to destroy it. Timothy nodded gravely. She's running out of money. Olivia. And with Jake out of work. She's desperate. The pieces fell into place like a cruel puzzle. Evelyn had used my restaurant to launder money, forge documents, and sell counterfeit jewelry. And now that she had lost access to Jake's corporate accounts, she needed a new source of income. And I was her target. My phone buzzed again. Timothy glanced at the screen. Who is it now? I read the message. My hands now steady. Madison has emptied our accounts. All of them. Including Jake's trust fund. Timothy swore under his breath. I met his gaze. We need to move fast. He nodded. What are you going to do? I took a deep breath. I need to talk to Eric Monroe. If Evelyn thinks she can manipulate the media, she's about to find out how wrong she is. I stood, my chair scraping against the floor. Then, I said, voice cold, I'm going to my lawyer. Because Evelyn had finally pushed too far, and I wasn't going to let her get away with it. The private dining room had never felt so suffocating. The walls, once a sanctuary of fine meals and celebrations, now enclosed the thick tension that filled the air. Evelyn sat at the head of the table, her posture poised, her fingers lightly grazing the stem of a wine glass. Jake stood behind her, His shoulders hunched with the weight of something he was only just beginning to comprehend. Timothy's absence at the table was louder than words. His empty chair was an accusation all on its own. Really? Olivia? Evelyn sighed, flipping through the stack of documents I had placed in front of her. All this drama over a few business arrangements. Business arrangements? My voice was steady, but my anger simmered just beneath the surface. Is that what we're calling fraud now? Jake stepped forward. Olivia, you're overreacting. I turned sharply toward him. She was selling fake jewelry through my restaurant. Jake. She used my name for a second mortgage. She drained your father's accounts. And she laundered money through my business. That's not overreacting, that's fact. Evelyn finally set her glass down with a soft clink. I don't know where you're getting these ridiculous ideas. Dear. I reached into my bag and pulled out my phone. With a single tap. Evelyn's voice filled the room. Of course it's authentic. Darling. And such a bargain through my private collection. Evelyn's manicured fingers gripped the edge of the table. Her composure wavered. Where did you get that? She hissed. Your buyers are furious. Evelyn. I said evenly. Especially the ones who tried to insure their purchases. Evelyn's lips parted slightly, but before she could respond, the dining room doors swung open. Timothy walked in, and behind him, 3 police officers. Evelyn. Timothy's voice was low and full of quiet devastation. It's over. She stood, her chair scraping against the floor. Timothy, she said smoothly, though I could see the slight tremble in her hands. You're not actually listening to her, are you? His wife just emptied his accounts, I said, watching Evelyn closely, including Jake's trust fund. Jake's face drained of color. Mom. Evelyn's gaze snapped toward him, something frantic flickering behind her eyes. I took care of you, she said quickly. Everything I did. For yourself. Timothy cut in. His voice was quieter than mine, but it carried far more weight. You can't prove anything. Evelyn snapped. Actually, a voice came from behind the officers. We can. Eric Monroe stepped into the room, a digital recorder in his hand. Evelyn's grip on the table tightened. You planned this, she whispered, fury creeping into her voice. Not planned, I said, stepping forward. Just inevitable. Evelyn lunged. Jake caught her before she could reach me, his hands gripping her arms tightly. Mom. Stop, he pleaded, his voice cracking. But she wasn't looking at him. She was staring at me, hatred simmering behind her eyes. You ungrateful little. You stole from your own husband, Timothy said, his voice heavy with exhaustion. You lied to everyone. And you destroyed the one thing you claimed to care about the most, your family. Evelyn's face twisted. The officers moved forward. Mrs. Thompson. You're under arrest for fraud, forgery, and financial misconduct. Please stand. For a moment. She didn't move. Then, slowly, she turned to Jake. Tell them, she whispered. Tell them I did this for you. Jake just stared at her, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. When Evelyn was finally led away, the silence left in her absence was deafening. Jake turned to me. His voice was barely above a whisper. Olivia. Please. I can explain. I took a step back. Explain what? Jake. That you helped her launder money through my restaurant. That you let her forge my signature. His expression twisted with pain. I didn't know. I let out a breath. Yes. You did. He swallowed hard. I'm sorry. But sorry couldn't rebuild trust. Sorry wouldn't change what had already been done. My phone buzzed. A news alert. Evelyn's arrest was already making headlines. And my restaurant's name was plastered across every story. The damage had been done. But I wasn't going to let it define me. Jake's voice cracked. What happens now? I met his eyes. My answer as clear as the space widening between us. I move forward. Jake. Without you. The courthouse hallway felt endless. Evelyn's society friends huddled in groups, whispering behind designer handbags, their faces tight with anger and betrayal. Eric walked beside me, his presence steady. "Are you ready?" he asked softly. I took a deep breath. Yes. The courtroom doors opened. Evelyn sat at the defendant's table, wearing a dull grey prison jumpsuit that clashed against the perfectly styled woman she had once been. Her eyes met mine. "Last chance," she murmured, her voice stripped of all charm. "Family should protect family." I tilted my head. "Like you protected Timothy's money? Or Jake's future?" Her expression cracked for a single, fleeting moment. Then I pulled out my phone and pressed play. Brandon's pathetic. Really? So desperate for mommy's approval he'll sign anything. Just like his father. Jake's face went pale. Evelyn lunged forward, her mask of composure shattering. "You ruined everything," she screamed. But I wasn't the one who had ruined it. She had done that all on her own. The last box of Evelyn's belongings sat unopened in my office. Through the restaurant window, I watched as the morning delivery trucks arrived. The familiar rhythm of a new day beginning. My day. My restaurant. Eric stood nearby, adjusting his tie, looking more nervous than he had during the entire trial. "My new review runs tomorrow," he said, handing me an advanced copy. The headline caught my eye. "Rising from the ashes, how betrayal forged a stronger kitchen." I scanned the article, my heart catching on the final paragraph. In the end, Carter's greatest achievement isn't its innovative menu or impeccable service, it's the proof that integrity, like the finest recipes, requires both heat and patience to perfect. I exhaled, the weight in my chest lifting just a little. "Too much?" Eric asked hesitantly. I smiled. "No. It's perfect." The kitchen door swung open. "Chef, the new menu tasting is ready," my sous chef called. I turned to Eric. "Stay for breakfast. I'm trying something new." "Always," he said with a knowing smile. I tied on my apron, stepping back into the rhythm of my kitchen. Some people collected scars. Others collected revenge. Me, I collected moments like these, creating something real in a world of empty promises. "Let's cook," I said. The restaurant hummed with life as the morning sun streamed through the windows, casting a golden glow over the neatly arranged tables. The familiar sounds of sizzling pans, chopping knives, and the occasional burst of laughter from the kitchen staff wrapped around me like a comforting embrace. This was my world, my sanctuary. The storm had passed, leaving behind lessons carved deep into my heart. Betrayal had tested me, but it had not broken me. Evelyn had spent years weaving a web of deception. But in the end, truth had been my sharpest weapon. Jake had made his choice. And so had I. And while walking away from a 13-year marriage wasn't easy, choosing self-respect over manipulation had never felt so right. Eric's review had breathed fresh life into my restaurant, reminding people that integrity, much like a well-crafted dish, required time, patience, and a refusal to cut corners. Timothy, free from Evelyn's grasp, had found solace in rebuilding his own life. And me, I had stepped back into my kitchen, reclaiming the space that had always been mine. "Chef," my sous chef called from the pass. "We're ready when you are." I tied my apron, exhaling slowly. Some people let betrayal define them. Others let it fuel them. I chose the latter. "Let's cook," I said, stepping into the rhythm of the kitchen, the weight of the past finally lifting. Because in the end, I wasn't just rebuilding a restaurant, I was rebuilding myself. Subscribe to Life Stories for more incredible real-life tales of resilience, betrayal, and triumph.